In today's video, I'm giving you my top 5 ways on how to find ideas to start your scholarly writing agenda as a faculty member. Hi, I'm Kimberly, a faculty member and a faculty success coach, and on this channel, we explore strategies and processes to help you achieve success in your faculty career, no matter where you're starting. By the end of today's video, you'll have some very specific ideas on what you might get started on for publishing, and I'll also share some ideas on how to choose from among that list on what you should start first and what the first step should be. The best way to get started is to build on what you already know. So many faculty members come into faculty positions with a dissertation that they just build their publication pipeline upon. And if that's you, this video is probably not for you. The rest of us feel like we're starting off behind the 8 ball because we might not have written a dissertation yet, and we might not have even started a doctoral program yet. If that's your experience, you're just like me and you're in the right place. When I first started writing and working on my scholarly agenda, I didn't really even know what that meant, but I knew that I was expected to do it for my position. One of my first papers that I wrote was just based on what I was interested in. I had attended a teaching and learning center activity on my campus, and they were talking about clickers, you know, those audience response system things. And I wondered, would that really work for my class? So I did a short, small study about it. I used it in some classes and not in others, and asked my students their opinions about it. Building on your ideas and interests is a great place to start. And we're going to start that with thinking about your graduate school projects, your thesis, research papers, and presentations that you did during graduate school. Think about any of those papers you wrote, anything that you already have content built upon, and add it to your list. Our goal right now is not that you're going to have one of these automatically chosen as a place to start in your next research project. Our goal right now is just to collect as many ideas as possible to put in that idea spot of your publication pipeline. I do this using sticky notes, and you can see a little bit about what my publication pipeline looks like if you check out the link to my blog above. So right now we're just getting as many ideas as possible. So think about any papers you wrote, research proposals that you had to come up with, a thesis, anything that you already have, write that on your list. Next, still thinking about graduate school, we want to think about all of the classes that you took and topics that you covered that you were interested in. Now, I don't expect you to go digging through all of your previous coursework and books. It should be something that you still remember thinking, oh, that's really interesting, or I wonder how that applies to whatever your current position is. So what articles did you read that were interesting to you? What topics did you cover? It might have just been a small section of your textbook or some articles that were assigned by your instructor. So go ahead and write down any ideas that you come up with that when you think back to your graduate school days, what interested you? What excited you? Add those to your list of possible topics. Another great place to get started is with what you already know and what you're doing, as I've mentioned. Now I want you to think about the courses that you are teaching in your current position and other activities that you're doing as part of your current position. For example, if you're teaching courses, what classes are they? What are your favorite topics to teach? What topics do you not like teaching? What are students always asking you questions about? Add all those things to the list. You might also consider what kind of feedback are you continually giving students, and what ways might you address it so that students don't need that feedback as often because they've mastered that skill or knowledge. You might also consider what topics are you expected to teach, but you really don't see a lot of resources available to teach that topic. Write that on your list. If in your current position you have other responsibilities in addition to teaching, go ahead and write them down. You're not necessarily going to spin off a research project about them or write something up, but the idea is to get as many ideas as possible so that you have a place to start and get your ideas flowing, and it might spark another idea. So everything you can think of, go ahead and put it on your list. Just as your day job can be a jumping off point on how you might get started with research, think about the other parts of your life. What do you enjoy doing? What are you reading? What experiences, skills, and knowledge do you have that you could use as a starting point for a scholarly agenda or even just one paper? You want to think of things that are in some way tied or related to the work that you're doing at the institution. It doesn't have to be a direct connection, but it has to be somewhat of a connection. When people look at your materials, if you're applying for reappointment, promotion, or tenure, they need to be able to see a connection between the work that you're saying that you're doing in your scholarship and research with the actual position that you have at the institution. The next idea I have for you is to consider your current interests, anything that you're interested in. What are you reading? What articles are you looking at? What's coming through on your social media feed? Some things that might be annoying you, other things that might be inspiring you or exciting you. Maybe even skim through some journals that publish in your field. For example, a journal, Sign Language Studies, or the International Journal of Interpreter Education, or other journals that are related to your field. Go ahead and take a look at those. Just skim through and see if there are any ideas that spark your interest. You might also, when you're thinking about just your current interests and passions, is to consider anything that made you go, that's interesting, or whoa, that's pretty cool, or I wonder how that applies to fill in the blank, some other idea. Any of those things, go ahead and add them to your list. Again, right now, this is just the idea list. It doesn't mean we're going to move any of them forward in our publication pipeline. It's just a place to start so that we don't feel like we have no idea where to start, because we have lots of ideas. We just covered my top 5 ways to get ideas into the publication pipeline so you can start working on a project. And you might feel a little overwhelmed if you wrote a whole lot of things on that list, or you might still think, I don't know where to start. The most important thing, though, is just to start, just to make one small step forward on any of the projects, because that will give you momentum to keep going and to make further steps. Here are just a couple of ideas. 1, you could look at the whole list and take a highlighter and limit yourself to highlighting 5 ideas on that list that you might want to follow up on. So you could highlight 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Just go down the list and highlight as you go. Then you could take that list and talk with a mentor, a colleague in your institution or outside of your institution. You could work with a coach. Any ideas to help you think more clearly about which one fits where you are right now and how you might want to move forward. Another idea is to just look at that list and compare each one until you're left with only one option. For example, take the first 2 things that you put on the list and decide which one wins out. If you had only those 2 choices, which one wins out? Okay, if the first one wins out, take the second one off the list and compare it to the third one on the list. When you're comparing those, if the third one wins out, get rid of the first one and compare the third one to the fourth one. You understand. Just go all the way down till there's only one idea left, and then make a tiny step forward on that one. It really doesn't matter how you decide which one. You could just scan the list and say, this one looks the most interesting today. Start there. That's absolutely fine. Okay, once you have an idea, you need to decide, okay, what do I do with this? You could decide, okay, this is a topic. This is where I want to start. You're going to move it from ideas to the next spot on your publication pipeline. You might not have a name for that yet. I call mine design, but you might not have a name for it yet. That's fine. It doesn't need a name. You just need to know that you need to actually move it to the next place and say, this is the one I'm going to focus on. When you're focusing on that one, think about what is the next very smallest thing that you could actually do to make some tiny bit of progress. Again, we're not trying to go from 0 to published paper. That's not going to happen. So what's the very first thing you need to do? You might decide that this topic, contact a colleague and ask them what experience or information they have about this topic. You might ask them, have you read anything about this or watched any YouTube videos? You might also just decide to do a search. You could go on Google Scholar, which is scholar.google.com, and see if there are any articles about that topic. That's another way to get started. Just do a Google search. You might also decide to search on YouTube and just see what random people out on the internet are saying about the topic. Again, we're just picking the smallest thing. You might decide, I'm going to go back and read that article from graduate school about this topic. Perfectly fine first step. And again, our goal is to pick the first step. Once you finish that step, decide the next very smallest thing that you need to do to keep moving that project forward. Because in the end, you actually are going to have to submit something if you need publishing for your career, and publishing is the currency of academia. You could be doing everything else well. You could be a great teacher. You could do a ton of service, but if you're not publishing and your job requires it, or if you're not publishing and you want to get a different position that requires it, then you're going to be at a disadvantage if you haven't published anything. We're going to get started taking the smallest steps to move something forward towards publication. Don't worry about the publishing part yet. Just focus on what is the very next thing I need to do. And often we need to learn more about the topic so we can figure out what specific angle or area of interest is important to us. If you like this video or you think someone else that you know might like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with them. Also, if you'd like more of this, click subscribe. I think you're really going to like it because in future episodes, we're going to be talking about what to do once you've moved something from idea to design or next steps. Thanks for watching and keep exploring to find what works for you.